Guys, it's Joe. I did defensive lobs back when we made the PowerPoint. Here it is right here. And we'll be going over defensive lobs. Typically it's used as a defensive stroke or strike. It is used also to buy you time to get back into position to even the playing field. So if your attacker on the other side of the court is trying to hit the ball towards you and at a striking power, or if the ball's going fast and you're getting tired out by chasing the ball back and forth, you can use this to buy you more time, give you time to get back in position. It is also important when lobbing the ball over, back over the net, to get enough arc on your shot and keeping the top spin at a minimum. Remember, the higher and slower the ball travels, the more time you have to recover. So yeah, the higher it is, which means it's going slow, it's going to buy you more time to get back in position. Underspin or slice. Underspin or slice, they're a similar thing, but as you get more amateur or move up in the level, the slice becomes more of a advantage. But the common errors most people have are most players use the forehand instead of the continental grip when executing the underspin. Also, players tend to try and scoop the ball or try and chop at the ball. So later on when I'm showing the instructional cues, I'm going to be showing the proper way how to strike at the ball with the slice and to not. For an example, chopping. You don't want to chop at the ball because you're not going to get any power out of it as well. And then if you scoop at it from underneath, that's also you're gonna have a hard time controlling where it's gonna go to. Coaching and feedback. Most volleys are hit with an underspin as opposed to swinging a volley which has a top spin. So volley, that's when you're hitting it overhand. This one for the underspin, you want to hit it underhand. The grip opens the racket face and allows spin to hit. This grip is said to be difficult and used for more extreme players. Yeah, so earlier I said the underspin's for when you start out with, but when you get good or more experience, you're going to want to try the slice, which is more highly effective for tricking the opponents because it's going to have more spin on the ball too. Others are more likely to use the continental grip. Yeah, that's the ideal way to use your racket when hitting. It's the proper hand placement. The underspin is also used for ultimate control of a ball over the court. So I'm saying, if you chop at it, you're not going to have a lot of control, or if you scoop at it, you're not going to have control or the momentum you want when returning it to the other side, which is more important because the whole point is to get back in position and buy you time. How do you hit the underspin? The forward edge of the racket leads to the ball. The ball grips onto and slides across the center strings in order to gain control of it. So you want to make sure it's sliding over the center strings. So that's when you're going to get more control. It's always important some people just hit the ball just to hit. You got to hit it with a purpose. You got to know where or what angle or what side of the racket. So for here, the center, the strings are more beneficial to control. This helps players change speeds and spins of an incoming ball and varies depths and angles of our hit. Stance and footwork. Stance and footwork, this is another important thing because if you're not in your stance and you're most likely not paying attention. When you're not paying attention, you're not going to be ready for the ball. You're not going to be prepared, especially when you get in those advanced levels where they're going to hit the ball like 100 miles an hour. You're going to want to be ready in your stance down low. And when you're ready in your stance down low, it allows you to move and chase balls easier, like side to side. Because if you're just standing up straight, you're not going to be prepared for it. Common errors. Some players are bending at the waist and reaching downward at the racket. Coaching and feedback. Some can get away with bending at the waist. That is true. I was about to say, bending at the waist is not a bad idea, but like, if you're playing really good people, you're going to want to do it the proper way, which is bending at the knees and getting down low. Yes, it's going to be hard to get it down low. It's going to be a lot harder. Yeah, it's not going to be easy. But to get good at it, you got to practice staying like down low. Probably some exercises like squats or something, or wall sits. That would be good, because when you're not used to bending all the way down when getting ready in a proper stance, it's going to be tough on your like quads and knees, and it'll also produce better results the more practice. So like the more practice you do, then in game time, it's going to be no problem. You're going to be used to staying in that position for however long the game is. The more you practice staying in the right stance, the more comfortable you'll be in. Yeah, so more practice. It's like conditioning. Most people are lazy. They don't exercise. They say that's why people think some things are tiring the others, because the others already hit their limit, did extra conditioning to prepare for not being tired. That's the whole point of athletes training hard and not sitting around, because conditioning is what makes you overcome the obstacles of being tired. Blocking the opponent's shot, which is also another effective skill to have for a drop shot. Common errors. Players are not getting close to the ball. Also, some never try the backswing, and which can be very helpful. Players also tend to have trouble with positioning because there will be little time to do so. Yeah, most people have another reason why they have trouble with positioning is because they're not hitting the ball right. That can be another reason. So they don't have enough time to get back in position. Coaching and feedback. The defensive lob is used when defending the attack from your opponent. The aim of the shot is to the point and used to force opponents to strike another before getting the point. It's important to get as close to the ball as possible with a short backswing. Make contact with an open racket face enough for it to travel high above your opponent and back to the court. So yeah, you're going to want to have a open rack face, especially. That's another thing with making contact. That's another thing with not just hitting the ball. You want to practice making contact at hitting the right position. So when you keep practicing, you're going to get used to hitting at the right position, and most of your shots will be highly effective. You're going to have more control of the ball, and you're going to exactly know where it's going. Continental grip. This is a highly effective grip you want to use. Also helps with control. It also helps with getting to the ball when the opponent strikes or returns the ball back to the court. Common errors, hand placement is wrong. Yeah, some people have the wrong grip. So in this picture right here, that's a correct grip. So it's an easy fix. It's just some people are careless about it. So the hand placement is wrong. We just went over. Or the player is using two hands on the racket. Yeah, some people can use two hands on the racket. I know some people, forget his name, but he'd use two hands on the racket. He's like more like a baseball player style type. Not a lot of people can get away with that, but like for beginners, you want to use one hand on the racket, especially when hitting it with the backhand or forehand. You're gonna want to use one side of that, because if you use two hands, you can probably have less accuracy or control of where the ball is going. So I would say using one hand, especially for beginners, is the way to go. And as you get good, maybe try those two hands, but the ideal way to do it is using one hand on the racket handle. Coaching and feedback should be one-handed grip. We just went over. This grip allows you to get more of a reach when trying to return it to the other side. This position gives the wrist the flexibility to obtain power and spin. The racket should be perpendicular with the court, and the player should hold the racket handle with a dominant hand as a gripping hammer. Yeah, so seeing this picture, it's like a hammer. Like when you're nailing something, that should remind you of if you're having like the proper placement of the racket. But another thing is this is obvious, even for beginners, they should know not to use their non-dominant hand when swinging. I mean, in practice, if you want to get used to using both, kind of throw people off, like this is more works for the pros because the pros know who they're playing, you know what I mean? Or even like in high school, when you're playing that same high school in maybe in just a single game, or then there's playoffs, right? They know like what side you're gonna hit. So they're going to probably serve to that one side or return the ball to that one side. Practicing on the other hand wouldn't be a bad idea, kind of throw them off their game. Oh, he's not used to this side, I'm going to hit it here. But little do they know that you've been practicing on it. So it would actually be helpful. But the ideal way is to do it with always use your dominant hand. Coaching feedback. We already went over how the one-handed grip. It's typically used from the waist to the shoulders. Yeah, you want to do waist to the shoulders. It's kind of similar to the stance. You want to be ready. That's probably the most effective way to use the continental grip. Opening up a racket angle and swing. Common errors. Some people do not follow through all the way and stop. When you don't follow through all the way and you stop, you're not going to get the momentum you want. You're not going to get the power or the strike, which means the returner is going to be most likely able to defend that or get to the ball quicker. It's not going to be as fast as you normally could have had it. Also, the last thing you want to do is bend your elbow because it can affect the direction on where the ball is going. Yeah, so if you bend your elbow, it's just going to go all over the place. The only time I would bend the elbow is in a serve. Do you know how during the serves, you know how like a football player, Cam Newton, for an example, he likes to bend his elbow when you throw. That's the only, when you're doing a serve, when you're tossing the ball up in the air and you bend your elbow, that's the perfect time. Serve's the only thing I can think of right now where it's effective. But you don't want to keep in mind, you don't want to bend your elbow, because it can affect the direction of where the ball is going. Coaching cues and feedback. Have an open racket when swinging so that you can get the height on the ball. Also, this is important too. You want to remember the positioning of where you want to hit the ball at on your racket, like the racket placement when you make contact with. Make sure you extend your arms when following through because the racket angle will stay on the line of your target. That's another thing. It helps you control where the ball is going as well. So if you don't follow through, it's going to go in a position where you don't want it to go. But if it does go in the position where you wanted it to go, is maybe because you got lucky, but proper ways to follow through, you'll be more effective. Life will be easier for you. It's important to have the tip of your racket pointing to the sky. That's another thing. I remember in class, I made this mistake too. I wasn't swinging the proper way. I wasn't pointing the racket to the sky. So my ball, the balls weren't going where I wanted it to on the court. And then not just that, some didn't produce height at all, on my underspins. This skill will allow you to buy lots of time so you're not running around constantly. Like we said multiple times, it does save energy because you're going to be in a high-paced game, not usually beginners, but when you're playing another good player, when you're playing another good player, they're gonna try to wear you down by hitting the ball into different corners to try to get you running, get you out of position. And I don't care who you are, you're gonna get tired just running back and forth. So this drop shot is very helpful just to buy time when returning the ball to the other side. Shifting of the weight during the follow through of a short backswing. Common errors. Players tend to do much shifting of the weight of their follow through after a lob. Players tend to tilt, which gets them off balance. It does. So like you want to stay balanced so you're not off balance and like hitting the ball awkwardly, and you want to make good contact with the ball. But like if you're off balance, how are you gonna make good contact with the ball? Coaching and feedback. Just make sure that your racket goes past your shoulder or a soft follow through, and which will add a little spin to your ball. You will also want to move short so that the ball can gain height, as we said in the last slide. When lobbing the ball back over, make sure you got most of your weight on the other side of your foot. Here's sources. Good practice before, just to warm up. It's probably like, you're not really, this is what people mess up on, you're not really scooping the ball here. It's kind of like a volley, like, it's kind of like you're doing a volley, like overhand, except for you're kind of like turning it like this when you're hitting. So it's like a volley, but you're kind of turning it, kind of using your waist and your shoulders. And then another thing is people try to like run away from it. You're supposed to stay still, move forward with it. But here's a good thing to start out with, like especially beginners that are trying to learn the defensive lob. Because it's not like scooping underneath, but this is a good practice. Just try to see how much you can get. Etc. And then another drill that also works with that, we also talked about the stance too. This is another thing to start out with. You want to bend here, make sure you're ready at all times, and then kind of practice like shuffling, move here, get ready for your forehand, move here, and then pretty much just do that a couple times, repetition, so you get a feel for it. But always stress having your racket here. It's like a volley, like I said before. So if you're turning your racket kind of to the left. You're not scooping it all the way underneath. It's kind of like, it's like a half. But speaking of that, the real effective key here is the continental grip, where it's like a hammer, finger on the side here. It's like a hammer here, except for your fingers on the side here. So another thing to practice, you can have that, some people practice that like drill that I just showed like this without having that grip. Try putting your finger out like this, like the proper grip, continental grip. So then when you're doing this, when you're doing this volley, you're already gonna, while you're learning this drill or skill, you're also getting used to the feel of holding the continental grip, so it'll be natural to you every time you have this grip. Because some beginners start out with just locking, not even have their finger out like this. But now going back on the continental grip, I know I said it a million times, but you got to stress with this. You got to stress. This is one of the key factors. Another thing is, you want to learn not to hack the ball or chop. No hacking. You want to kind of like turn your racket. Once you do it multiple times, you'll get used to the feel and it'll become natural to you. Another one is your outside foot. You want to make sure where your like stance is for your outside foot, turning, twisting. Like I said, waist to shoulders is most beneficial. Yes, it can go higher. Yes, it can go lower, but most beneficial is from your waist to your shoulders. But guys, if you get this down, you'll be really effective with it. Really effective with it. Especially duos. You and your buddy. Probably a good drill would be, I can't show it now because I have like no place to like play on like the tennis courts right now. everything's closed down, so it's kind of tough right now. But you and your buddy, one goes on the other side, maybe one just hits balls at you. You practice that continental grip or that lob shot, that defensive lob shot, and then you probably do it, 10 times in a row, and then he does it 10 times in a row, just alternate like that. Try that drill out. It'll be really effective. Another drill that I thought worked really well, it's actually my favorite. They call it pickleball. That was a drill. So let's say I'm at the service line, right? I'm ready. This is what I like about it too, because this drill does not just work on defensive lobs. It also works on your stance, your open stance, your footwork too. So let's say I'm in the service line. You can have a pair of 4. It's not just 2 people. You can have multiple people. That's why I like this drill. Everyone can benefit from it. Let's say I'm ready, right? I'm in my stance. I'm ready to get this ball. Other partner on the other side will lob the ball over me. I'm on the service line, lob the ball over me, probably close to the center mark or the baseline, somewhere right before it hits the baseline or service line. So let's say I'm ready for the ball, right? And the partner on the other side is gonna lob the ball over you. Your job is to shift your hip here, right? And track that ball down. And then once you track the ball down, you're near the baseline. And then you just turn your racket like we worked on, continental grip, turn, and then return back, lob it back. So that was slow-mo. I'm gonna go slow again. So you come over here, you track the ball, bounces, this grip, continental grip. You return it back. And then the next partner comes in, ready to go, service line. This also is great too, because it helps with your conditioning. It can be a constant drill if you want to get a really good workout in. One partner, after the partner does it, then the other partner comes in. And then after a few times, 10 times, 15 times, wherever around there, you guys switch, and you guys will be the ones lobbing the ball over the other people's heads across the court. So I'm ready to get them to go fast. And then, so here, stance ready. I'm all the way back here. Ball bounces. Make sure you emphasize this a lot. And that's pretty much all I have. Next will be another video on more instruction on the defensive lob shot. Hope you guys enjoy.
You how to generate more power on your volleys, and also how to move more effectively up at the net to help you poach and become a more dominating force up at the net. Now, one of the most common questions I get asked in clinics is how do you deal with lobbers? So in today's clip, we're going to show you a few strategies and how you can deal with lobbing. When playing against lobbers, it's very important that you get back very quickly for the overhead. Now, it's essential that you have very good overhead technique. Now, when you're playing lobbers, you want to try to look for visual cues and try to anticipate the lob early so you can move back before they even contact the ball. So if you see them leaning backwards and the strings are open, you want to start moving and getting back ahead of the shot. So watch over here. You want to start here in the middle of the service box, and ideally you're going to be split stepping and you may fall forward, but this leg will help propel you back. And you're going to take crossover steps. Crossover, you're going to base, hit the overhead, and then get right back into the ready position. Now, very often when I watch club players, the opponents hit the lob and they'll watch the ball first and they'll move second. You want to move first and then find the ball second, taking crossover steps. Now, you may have to make some adjustments to your starting position based on your height, your reach, and how quickly you can get back. So if you play someone who's lobbing all the time, you may want to start a little further back over here, so it's much easier to get back for that overhead. But one thing to pay particular attention to is when you start further back, you're going to be much more vulnerable to that low volley. So if you see the ball's not being lobbed, you want to make sure you close in the net so you can try and get the ball that's a little bit higher over the net. If you stand back here, you may be forced to get a low volley and have to hit the ball up in a defensive position. Okay, ways to practice moving back to cover the lob. So the first thing you want to look for is to anticipate. If your opponents are leaning back and the strings are slightly open, you want to anticipate that they're possibly hitting a lob. So if you anticipate the lob, the first thing you want to do is you want to move back first, and then you want to find the ball second. Very often I watch players, they will try to find the ball, and by the time they find the ball, they start to move. It's too late. The ball's got over their head and they cannot get the ball back as an overhead. So ways you can practice this is to practice shadow swing movements. So you want to start sort of in the middle of the box, got your ready position over here. You can get some forward momentum, you can go forward, you're going to split, you're going to catch yourself with one leg, use that leg, the left leg, to push yourself back and take crossover steps all the way back to the service line. Now once you get to the service line, really you have three options. If it's a short lob, you may base and I'll go forward to hit the overhead. Right? If it's a deep lob, you may continue going back and then make adjustment steps, hitting the overhead. And if the lob gets over your head, that's where you're going to jump. You're going to use the back leg to push up, jump at the overhead, and then you want to recover back to the ready position. So you want to do those movements over and over. So let's look at it one more time. You got your ready position. You're going to go forward. You're going to split, catch yourself, push over with this leg, turn, cross over to the service line, and then you want to practice one of those three different scenarios. And once you hit the overhead, you want to move back to the ready position. Right, so you want to practice these over and over until you familiarize yourself with the movement, so when you go play, it's much easier to implement in your game. Another way to deal with lobbers is to use strategy. Lobbers are very comfortable on the baseline, so you want to take them out of the comfort zone by either pushing them back up against the back fence, or you can bring them forward. Two ways to bring them forward is you can hit an approach shot that's low over the net, it's slightly off pace where it bounces close to the service line, and the second bounce is inside the court. Another way is you can hit, when you're at the net, you can hit an off-pace volley that lands short. In both instances, what's going to happen is you're going to force that lobber to now run forward and try to scrape the ball up. Ideally, they're going to hit it very close to the second bounce, which will make it difficult for them to lob it over your head. If they're hitting the ball close to the second bounce, you can now close the net and have an easy volley to put away. Now if it sits up, beware, they can still get the racket below the ball and lob you. So the key is to hit a low ball that lands short, it forces them to run forward and have to scrape the ball up.
Okay, let's take a look at examples of the two strategies we discussed. Now there are other strategies you can use against lobbers. Now we're going to start with the short, low approach shot. Now you'll see how just practicing with my partner, my friend Chris, we're just playing cross-court one-on-one doubles. Now you don't always need 4 players to work on your doubles game. You can have a very effective and productive practice just with you and your partner playing one-on-one, playing cross-court. So in this situation, we're rallying cross-court. I'm going to hit a off-pace, low, short approach shot. It's going to force Chris to move forward off the baseline. It's going to make it very difficult for him to get the racket below the ball to hit a high lob over my head. So what's going to happen is he's going to pop the ball up, I'm going to close the net, stepping out, stepping through, getting very close to the net, and then putting the ball away. Let's take a look over here. Again, this can also set up your partner up at the net. You see how he's reaching for the ball. Your partner can start to move forward and then look to take the shot when the ball crosses the net. Now let's take a look at an example of the short volley. So this is when you're up at the net. In this situation, I'm serving and volleying. And the idea is you want to hit the ball before the service line and keep the ball low. So it's a really off-pace volley, and you want to just try to disguise the shot. Now this is a very effective strategy in doubles. It's going to work against lobbers, but in general, this is a good play because most people come and hit a deep volley and the opponent on the baseline, they're not expecting it, so often they're caught off guard and they take off very late. So one of two things can happen in this situation. He may not read it and get there late and the ball's going to bounce twice, or if he does get there, as we discussed in the low short approach shot, he may not be able to get the racket below the ball to hit an effective lob, where he'll just pop the ball up. So let's take a look over here. See where the ball bounces a second time halfway between the service line and the baseline. So he did not react in time, But now if you did get to the second bounce, you would pop the ball up, I would continue forward and have an easy high volley to now put away.
To summarize playing lobbers, we first talked about how to effectively get back to cover the lob. So when you're up at the net, you want to learn to anticipate if your opponent's leaning back slightly and the strings are open, that they're going to be hitting a lob. You want to move back first and then find the ball second. When you move back, you want to take crossover steps all the way to the service line. Now you may need to adjust your starting position by staying a little further back based on your height, your reach, and how quickly you can get back to the service line. But remember, when you stand further back, you're going to be more susceptible to a low defensive volley. So if you see they're not going to lob, you want to move forward so that if you get the volley, it's going to be higher and ideally above net level. We talked about two strategies on dealing or playing against lobbers. Now there are many other strategies that work. We just covered the two, talked about how to get them out of this comfort zone by bringing them forward. First one was by hitting a low off-pace, short bouncing approach shot. And the second one was hitting, when you're up at the net, hitting a low volley that bounces short to the middle of the court, which works in many instances. But both tactics, what would happen is your opponent would be running forward and ideally getting to the ball close to the second bounce where they cannot get the racket beneath the ball enough to hit an effective lob, where they're forced to kind of scrape the ball up, which will allow you to move forward and then have an easy volley to put away. So if you have any questions on this video, please post your comments below.
All right, so as I said before, we were talking about defensive lobs, but for my practice plan, originally my partner and I were working on serves, so this is going to be a different type of skill here. So yeah, my dates are 4/16, 4/21, 4/23, 4/28, 4/30. Those was the same days that I was going to demonstrate if when we were in class, but that got canceled. So that's pretty much all we need is tennis rackets, cones, balls. It's around an hour 15 usually class ends. So and my objective was the athletes would know how to properly serve in a game of tennis. I should also add different skills too. Because in here, I don't just have the basic way to serve. I have other techniques, which makes it easier for you. Throws the opponent off their game for their serves. So for 4/16, April 16, our group didn't go first, so there's no point of putting the warm-up in. Ours is pretty much practice serve. The athletes, so we'll pretend we're serving, you're not following through all the way. And the important thing is, as a coach, to make sure their form is on and they're behind the line. Also, when you're practicing, you're not serving all the way, you're not following through all the way, but you can get that practice by staying on the line and making sure you don't go over the line, because you can lose a point, even though if you score off a serve or score off that rally, you can lose if your foot was over the line. So after those 5 minutes, the next 5 minutes, we're going to move on to the cone drill. That's when the athletes practice serving the ball into a square. So this is what the cones are for. We'll make a box out of the cones, so the 4 cones make a square out of them. And basically, the primary objective is you want to hit the ball. You want to hit the ball into the square. This helps with your accuracy. And for a coaching standpoint, you want to make sure they have proper stance and they have eye contact with the ball and they follow through all the way. Yeah, that's another thing. When you serve, you want to follow through all the way so you get the right amount of speed you want, the accuracy you want, where the ball is going. Because if you put some pace on that, some people can't stop. If you have a fast serve, some people might not be able to stop that, or have a hard time controlling it or returning it back over. Which will set you up nice when they return it, and you can return it right back to them. And then, of course, we'll do that 2-minute drink break, which, yeah, it's 4 to 8 ounces of water. You don't want to have too much water. Because then you'll be bloated and you won't practice your 110% best or your 100% best. And yes, it's obviously it keeps the athletes from being dehydrated. No matter what, if you want to be a tough person, not take any like drinks or anything. Some people are like that. They want to practice longer when they're tired. That's not the way to go. You want to stay hydrated. So then we'll finish off day one on the 16th with serving, which athletes will serve the ball back to the other side of the court without any cones or assistance. The partner will be on the other side to retrieve the balls. So therefore, it's just a regular serve. Like, this is their practice of serving, like, in like a normal game standpoint, and then the other partner is gonna retrieve the balls, and then after a while they'll switch, like probably after every 4 minutes, so everyone has equal 4 minutes of practicing serving. As a coach, you want to make sure they're following through all the way, so they get that full potential, and then hitting the ball diagonal to the first box, which meaning I want to make sure that ball is going right at the perfect angle, because some people will hit it into the wrong box, which will cause them points. You don't want to cause any points by serving in the wrong box. So now we move on to the second day, which is on the 21st. We'll start off with practice serve. It could be like our daily warm-up. It's when, as we said in the first day, you don't want to follow through all the way. It's just practicing, throw the ball up in the air. Also, another thing I want to point out, when you're throwing the ball up the air, you want to make sure you make eye contact right when it goes above, like when you toss it and it goes right above your shoulders. For a coaching standpoint, you want to make sure that the form is on and that they're behind the line. That'll cost you points, even though if you're doing good. It's a game changer, definitely. And then the purpose is to have good form and follow through so you can control where the ball is going. And then you want to also make sure you have eye contact with the ball. That's definitely a good one to have, because if you don't have eye contact with the ball, you're not going to know where it's going most of the time. Make sure your heels are in line with your back foot. That's just proper like technique, and it'll help control where the ball is going when you're serving. So that's a plus. All right, so like the next drill, the next 10 minutes, the next drill is miss or go down. This is when the athletes will serve the ball into the box. This time, if they make it into the box, they'll go up 1 point each time. If they miss, they'll go down. This is a fun drill because this challenges you to do different like skills. So like, sometimes I'll challenge my partner. Like, let's say I did this drill at home once. My friend got up to 15, so I had to get my goal was to get to 15, but it was frustrating because when I would always get to 14, I would miss, then go back down to 13. I would make 14, miss again, go to 10, and then I had to make 5 in a row after that. It's a pretty fun drill. It gets competitive. Coaching standpoint, you got to make sure you're feeling confident and not just serving just to serve. That's another thing I want to point out. Some people, they practice repetitions on serving the wrong way. They're not getting their shoulder like overhand, like a volley type. They keep serving the wrong way. They're not getting their elbow. They're not bending their elbows. Like in the beginning of this video, I was talking about how like Cam Newton, how he's about to ready to throw a football. You kind of want to have your like elbow in that angle. Also, the purpose is to get used to serving the ball in the right spot. That is true. When you're doing this miss and go down, if you're playing by yourself and no one's watching you, which doesn't matter, if you want to get really good at it, maybe start slow off at first, just making sure it goes in the box. But as you keep getting good at it, you try to be more accurate with pace on the ball. Put more pace on the ball and try to be accurate with it. Challenge yourself. The drink break, we already discussed the drink break, but Oh, the mechanics for the Mr. Go Down drill, I forgot to mention. Put some power on the serves when it comes to game time. That's effective. That's why it's good to practice that, hitting as hard as you can while being accurate at the same time. Because when you do that in a game, like the opponents are going to have a hard time returning the ball back. And if they do, it's going to be sloppy. It's going to be probably like a slow return back, which means it sets you up nice to score on them. So we're going to end the last 4 minutes on the slice serve. We're not going to pick up too much. Since it's a short amount of time, we'll probably move the slice serve on to the next day, and first thing in the next day. So this is pretty much important. Like, this 4 minutes are just going through the motions. Make sure you get the step down. We don't expect them to get it right away, but the slice serve, this is more for skilled players, but the athlete will practice the slice serve for the rest of practice, and we'll start off with just going through the motions, and we will perform without slowing down or going through the motions during the beginning of next practice. Each partner will grab a racket to practice the form of the slice. For a coaching standpoint, you want to hit the right top, hit the outside right top of the ball, and to keep practicing until you master it. You want to hit around, this is what helped me a lot. You want to hit around 1 or 2 o'clock, which would be best. Some people do 12. 12 is fine, but the more ideal way is probably in between 1 or 2. But that's another thing I also talked about earlier today in this video. You want to hit that. You kind of want to hit the ball. It's important to hit the ball in the right place of your racket because it helps the control of where you're going. It's kind of like almost you can feel what part of the racket you should be hitting the ball. So, like, for instance, the defensive lobs, I know we're talking about serves now, but defensive lobs, you go underneath, you can feel that the ball is best to hit like the middle in between the center of the strings. Kind of feel it. Some people do it naturally, but there are also some skills where you won't notice it, so you got to keep that in mind. For the purpose, it will throw off the opponent, and it will get some of them out of position because they will be chasing the ball, which is true. The slice serve, it tends to like break off, like curve, so like it gets people to chase the ball. It's good to knocking them off balance, so slow them down, which again will make it easier for you to return the ball back if they even return the ball to you. If you have a really good slice serve, that's crucial. It will make it easier for you for sure. And then hammer continental grip, we talked about this for the defensive lob. It will be most effective. So the hammer grip, make sure you have that finger like sticking out, pointing out. All right, I'm pretty sure this is the next day. We'll start off, like I said, we didn't spend too much time on slice serve for the other practice. So we're going to start off with the slice serve for this practice. So this is, athletes will continue to work on the slice serve. They will hit the slice serve while their partners retrieve the balls back from the other side of the court. And then they'll switch off. And then for a coaching standpoint, make sure they're hitting the 1 to 2 o'clock. We already talked about that. The purpose is it will throw the opponent off and it will get them out of position. Yep, it's the same skill. So then hammer continental grip, effective. We already talked about that. Then we'll start the next 10 minutes off with athletes doing a one-on-one with their partner. Partner A will serve the ball to partner B. Partner B will return it back to partner A. And then partner A will return it back. So this kind of sounds confusing, but partner A is working on partner A is working on the serve. At the same time, partner B is going to retrieve it back to him, so then the server can work on going up to the net and following through and finishing. So like most people that are serving have a hard time have a hard time with following through. Like, they'll serve and they'll think they're good. They don't have to move up to the net or anything, but it's really crucial to move up to the net after serving. Can't just relax. Got to be ready what's coming next. But the purpose is for the server to follow through and return the ball back to the other side successfully, which I just got done talking about. Staying in a ready stance when following up will get you as a player for like a faster reaction time. Yeah, that is true. When you're following the ball up, it's good to like have a good stance so you're ready for it for whenever the partner B returns it back to you, or partner A. Then we'll have another drink break. This one will be short. I thought it would 1 minute would be fine. I'll probably give them extra seconds after that. It doesn't have to be exactly 1 minute, but like, you don't want to drink too much water or be bloated, and then you won't finish practice off as strong. But definitely need water in you. But 4 minutes, I like this. We'll probably pick this back up for the next practice, but the walking serve, athletes will end practice for the day with practicing the walking serve. Athletes will hit the ball across the court with the serve, and the other partner will be retrieving it, and then the partners will switch spots. For a coaching standpoint, to make sure you stay balanced, that's a good one, because a walking serve at first, it can feel like awkward at first, but definitely want to get the steps down. Probably start off slow. Make sure you turn your hip, load up, and then shoot, and then return. It does give you more power, and the purpose of it is it helps you become more accurate with the serve. Another suggestion that's key is a ready position. And this time, usually you're used to using the continental grip. This one is the Eastern backhand grip. That's what you want to use, which is effective, really effective. So then we'll move on to the next practice on the 28th. We'll start off. We'll finish the 10-minute. The rest of the walking serve. We'll do 10 minutes, and here's why. I think this walking serve will throw people off. I think it'll be effective. I think since we had less time working on it last practice at the end, I want to really get this down. So I wanted to finish this off, but same thing really. Just leave off where they were before, but you start off probably slowly working on your form, and then later on do a drill to speed up the process, make it challenge you. And 2-minute drink break, definitely spent 10 minutes on. And then we'll finish up with a 2v2 scrimmage. I think this will be fun. I remember when I was following a practice plan that someone else gave me, I was always excited to scrimmage. It was fun. It also challenges you, gives you a game-like feel, you know? But athletes will scrimmage other athletes so that they get a game-like feel. This will give them the opportunity to try the serves that they learn. Everyone will pair up in groups of 2 to make their teams. As a coaching standpoint, you want to make sure they do their best when scrimmaging. If they just goof off, they're not going to get anything out of it. Make sure they try their best. They try what they were working on. Also, another thing is, whatever they do good at, they should try something else. So then they have something else in the bag for the next game. Like, whatever you worked on in practice, you should try that. Like, for instance, we were practicing walking serve. You probably want to try a walking serve just to get that down for practice. Who cares if you mess up? Who cares if you lose? It's just a scrimmage. You all learn, make mistakes, and then fix it before game time. So, and also I said do not get frustrated. Something doesn't go your way. It's practice for a reason. You learn from it. Like I got done saying. Yes, people get competitive, especially when playing others. I understand. I've been there before. I got frustrated. I messed up. But you got to keep your cool. It's also good practice, too, to keep your cool, because it can cost you points out when you're playing the games. But make sure you try new serves we worked on so that you can master it. That's what I just got done saying, too. You want to make sure you got that new skill down. You can always go to that serve that you were you had down a while ago. That's always going to be there. But if you master this, you can throw people off. Especially like the last set of a game, like you guys are tied and then the next set wins. You can just use that serve, knock them off their game. But the purpose is so that athletes will get a game-like feel and that they can have the opportunity to hit serves and follow-ups. So like this is the opportunity for them to like, for the server, after the server serves the ball, he can work on scoring by following up. He can try that at practice, which is more, it gives you more of a realistic feel because it's a game. Like, you know, it's not like a drill where it's, you know, it's gonna happen. There's some resistance, but the winner doesn't have to clean up for mechanic. The winner doesn't have to clean up, but hitting the new serves will be key to throwing your opponents off. Follow-up can be a game changer as well. Yeah, this is more like a motivational, so like it'll be great because people, they're gonna have fun, they're gonna try their butts off, and that's how you get better. And then the 30th, we're gonna start off with the Indian club form, another skill you can pick up. Athletes will go through the motions to the Indian club serve. Definitely go through the motions. You're just learning it, so you don't want to go fast, because if you go fast, you're not going to pick it up. Each athlete will grab a racket and practice the steps. After that, the athletes will perform the skill without going through the steps, and then they will return it to the other side of the court while their partner retrieves it. You want to switch spots after every 5 serves, so then you both got the equal amount of reps. For the coaching, maintain proper balance throughout the whole exercise. Release the energy upward during the serve. Shoot hip and twist the back hip. So for a practice standpoint, you want to get more power into your serve, which this one gets you more power. Also for this one, the Eastern backhand grip would be the move. Then we'll give them the student athletes a drink break. Then we'll finish off the 8 minutes with another 2v2 scrimmage. I mean, we're getting down to the last practices, so I feel like scrimmages would be best for them because some of these people aren't going to be never played in a tennis match before. This would be perfect. Especially because the beginning of practices before these last 2 practices, we've been working on skill, technique. This is a good opportunity for them to have fun, show us what they can do, show us what they learned, see what they improved on, see what they learned by executing the skill. So if this 2v2 scrimmage, we're going to finish this for the rest of the practice. The athletes will pair up on the same teams that they were on last time, and they will play a new team this time. For a coach standpoint, do your best and finish the last practice off strong. Definitely. To get a game-like feel so that you can see any mistakes that the athletes can work on later on fix. Yes, another thing good for a coach to keep in mind, whenever athletes become coaches, they won't be athletes forever. Once you become a coach, during these scrimmages, it's important that you take notes, see what they messed up on, so then you can go back later and fix it with them. For the motivational, I have one player stay up and the other player stay back just in case someone hits a lob. Always be ready in the stance as well. Definitely always be ready in the stance as well. When you're ready in the stance as well, good things happen. You're in a stance compared if you're not. You're not going to be reacting as fast. It says have one player stay up and the other stay back. Yes. So for instance, when you're playing a duos match, you want, if your buddy is serving, you want to move up near the service line or even a little closer while he stays up. It's important for someone to stay up, now someone to stay back, just in case you get the ball lobs over your head so they can retrieve it back. But also, I also made another practice plan. It's not a 5-day practice plan, but it's one day like practice, something that would work out well. I know I made this for like while we were in class and stuff, but I made one for like since everyone's in quarantine, I made up one for everyone for this. So hopefully the other plan I'm going to show you works out. It's not the 5-day practice plan, it's just one day, but I think it really helped beginners learn new things about the sport of tennis. Hope you guys will enjoy it.
This is a time period to socialize with each other and build a bond of team spirit, to get out the days, whatever happen at school or class, okay? And then you have them stretch together, and I would have the students lead. And my theory was I had like 4 captains, 2 boys, 2 girls captains, and they would run the team. And they would keep everybody in line, and by them keeping them in line, I don't have to yell at them. But if I yelled at them, I would make everybody run. So the captains would just tell the kids, hey, quiet down, start stretching, coach can make us run if you don't do it. And so they were like the front line, and if the kids had a problem, they would talk to the captain first, and the captains would talk to me. That way there's kind of like a chain of command. They would stretch in a circle, and we would do this even when we went to other places. The key is you need a routine, so we would go to another location, and everyone would be really nervous, and we would get together and stretch on the court to warm up. I'd get court for a team warm up, and we'd stretch in a circle. And that was the way we kind of settled into the day, and they had organized stretches, hamstring, quads, arm, wrist, shoulders, back, basic stuff. You don't sit down, it's all standing up stuff. And then after we finish stretching, we do agilities, crossovers, kadoke steps, back pedals, being careful that they lean forward in the back pedals so they wouldn't fall. Then we would serve 2 baskets, and I would call out where to aim, or the captains would call out where to aim. So this is about 3:15 to 3:25. You serve 1, 2, or 3, and this is the reality. Like, people don't practice serving enough. And when I say 2 baskets, I mean like 2 shopping carts of balls. Like, I had every player bring like 2 or 3 cans of balls to practice, and that way we would have new balls and old balls. And we would keep the old balls for rainy day practices. So when it rained, we would play with the old balls. So, train like you play. The reason we did 1, 2, 3 was that's the way we signal in doubles. 1 was middle, 2 body, 3 was wide. And then I would demonstrate a shot and say it was a volley, and they would work on it from 3:30 to 4 o'clock. And at this phase, they're doing their own feeds, and they're playing out the point, and they're trying to sustain the rally to 3 shots. And they do it like 3 times, and then they switch. And that way they're working their feeds. You can either be with the volleyers on their side working volleys, or you can be with the baseliners on their side working with the baseliners. And we had 4 courts running like this. So that's 32 players on 4 courts. Match play is a very important part of every practice, or live ball drill and competition. So from 4 o'clock to about 4:40, we play doubles, and we would have 4 courts and 32 players. So now this becomes a problem. But the first thing, you got to keep the rankings, and if they miss practice, you keep that for ranking also. They would drop a rank. But the way to create a solution, and it sounds really lame, but it's actually really good, is you have 2 double matches on 1 court. What do I mean by that? You have 2 double matches on 1 court. The blues play, and then the yellows will play 2 points, and they'll switch. Why do we do this? Because the blues play out 2 points, and then the yellows come on court and play 2 points. And if you get to 40-40, you play no ad deuce. You have an audience now. It sounds really lame, but the kids like it because then they play and their friends, while the other people are playing, they're talking strategy, or just talking, and the other people are playing, they watch, and they're just playing like every 2 points, so they're always on court. Say this again: 2 doubles matches, they play 2 points, and then they switch. The blues are on first, then the yellows come on. If you get to 40-40, you play out the no ad deuce point, and then you switch. You do the whole thing like a normal match, but the returners normally stand behind the baseline, and the servers stand behind the baseline, and then you just jump on the court when they're done. And that way you have 32 people play on 4 courts. And if you want to play some singles, just stack 1 court with 3 doubles matches at the same time. It's a little slower, but it works out. At 4:40, we would end with a game. Traditionally, it's running doubles. But the key was you had to do something teamy at the end with everyone together. And so at 4:40, we would end with running doubles. It's a fun little game. I would randomly divide the guys up into one team versus another team, the whole team. We used to have like 32 players, so 16 on 16. And we would play this game. And it was a fun game because people liked it. Or we would play around the world, or we'd do some kind of game together. But running doubles, you have all of people on one side and other people on the other side. You feed the person on the baseline, they play out the point cross court, and whatever they do, they play out the point. It's just doubles. And you can emphasize all the things you work on in doubles. If they miss the first shot, it counts as a point. And as soon as they miss the first shot, you feed the next ball. But this is where it's running doubles. Now the baseliner becomes net player, and the other net player comes out, and the baseliner becomes net player. It rotates in a circle. See the arrows? And then you switch, and you have to run through the point. That's the key. The baseliner becomes the net player comes out. That happens on both sides. Then you feed the ball to the baseliner, and you play out the point. And it can run to 21 or 12 or whatever number works out for you. And you can switch at 10 all. You can not switch at all. You can have one side just stay there and play that way the entire time. But the key to this is the running double is actually really entertaining. And because you have an audience watching and there, people start cheering. And you can make the first person hit any shot they want. They can go down the line, or they can lob, or they can play cross court drop shot. They don't have to play like a real point, you know. And this game surprisingly can entertain a lot of people on one court. And that's the goal. You want to entertain a lot of people, build that team spirit, but you also want to be teaching them how to play doubles. And team tennis in Hawaii is 3 doubles and 2 singles. And you cannot double up. So your doubles players are like a separate category. So at 4:40, we finish up, or it's about 4:50. We have last sprints to cool down. Maybe like 2 sprints across the court. And then after that, we go over what we did. I'll do a quote. I'll talk about the players that did really well. I'll promote players. I used to have like the lowest level was the alphas, the next level was the betas, then you had the gammas and omegas. The omegas were the starters, so they had like that's your top court with 8 players, and 4 boys, 4 girls. But I like to have the ranking and always emphasize things with the ranking. Control the practice with the ranking. Okay. The biggest key is you try to inspire and to reinforce how you play, and the courts would be open after practice, so we play an hour against the better kids. Because the practice is a little slow for the better kids. I mean, as long as you keep them together and they work together, the rallies get really well. They can work on different shots. They can hit harder. They can play hard against each other. But you really want to inspire them, and the best way to inspire them is you play. And by having you play the upper kids and realizing that the kids will only play with you if they're the upper kids, then there's a goal. And I have a 1/3 rule. I always tell them 1/3 of the time you play someone better than you, 1/3 of the time you play someone as good as you are, and 1/3 of the time you play someone weaker. Don't let the number 1 player not practice with you. This is very common in tennis. They want to be like with their own coach, and you tell them that's fine. You can go be with your own coach. You don't have to be on the team. Because if you're at practice and your number 1 player is there, he helps bring up the level of everyone. He's the role model. But if he's not there, he doesn't help your team get better. This is not worth having him or her. Practice, you gotta make it count. You gotta make it a team event, and people don't come, they don't get to play. That was the rule. If you don't come the day before a match, you will not play.